Yeah, mate, how you going?
Great. Thanks very much for joining us today. I want to say a big shout out to anyone who's about to listen to this podcast. Please drink all your water, stay hydrated. You've got some.
Yep, stay hydrated. This is for Dave Fraser.
Is that a tinny? Is that what we call one of those technically?
Hmm? Yep, can of two horse, mate.
I don't know what that means,
There we
but
go.
okay. Yeah. Please stay hydrated, or to quote Joel, and also to quote my friend Jacob Berry, just do some day drinking. Although it's 9 p.m. there, so your evening drinking, which is more acceptable, right?
Depends. We're with all this Rona issue at the moment. We're all on airport time, aren't we? So it doesn't matter what time of day it is.
Doesn't matter.
Just get stuck in.
Yeah. So big shout out to Positive Victim being in the chat, who's excited about this, and for subscribing. Thank you. The Hobby Homo. Thanks to everyone who's about to join us live. Appreciate that loads. Today we're talking Beasts of Chaos, but I just want to say a big thank you to everyone on those who are on Patreon. You guys are the best. Yeah. But I've got some news before we get into meeting you, Joel, talking about you, and then talking about Beast of Chaos, if that's okay. I've got two bits of news,
Sure.
which one of them I'm going to cover a little bit more tomorrow. So the bit tomorrow that I'm going to cover is the fact that in France, yeah, that's right. In France, they are. Owen Jackson, thanks for subscribing. In France, they have just started to organise a tournament on Tabletop Simulator, an Age of Sigmar tournament on Tabletop Simulator. I've watched one of the YouTube back reps, but I won't lie and say I've watched it for ages because it is all in French. So all I could think was Sacre Bleu. Yeah, so that's really exciting. And if you guys want to go and check that out, I'll talk about it a bit more tomorrow because they've done like a faction breakdown. They've got lists. So I think it's the first online electronic tournament for Age of Sigmar. So there are lists, in the current meta, which is kind of cool, right? So I'm going to have a look at that tomorrow and see what I think, which I think is cool. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, desperate times call for desperate measures, and if people want to do a tourney online, then good on them.
Yeah, I think it's interesting at least. And while we're locked down, we might as well all talk about it. So that's my first piece of news, and I'm looking forward to more of that. So I'll talk about that properly tomorrow because I only just got that before we went live. And then the other piece of news is a big shout out to some of the guys in the chat. So I don't know if you know, but we on Saturday we're going to do 12 hours. We're going to do a 12-hour stream. So 12 midday till 12 at night, 12 hours. Is a big thank you to everyone who helped donate some money. And we're also going to put up a tip jar for charity. So all the money that we raise that day is going to go to the NHS. So we're doing that on Saturday, which is really exciting. I'm looking forward to that loads. But as a big one of the things that's happened in the chat it does need updating. So thanks, Scrivo. One of the things that we're going to do is there's a bingo being set up, I think, online. Because I don't know if you get this, Joel. Sometimes you catch yourself just saying the same things over and over, all the time. In fact, all the time. So apparently, in a fun day drinking bingo session, the guys are setting up a keyword bingo. There's a name for it. Fuck, let me go find the name because I forgot already what the fucking name is called. It is called the 12-hour Super Streak Bingo. So if you want to get a bit pissed, get some shots in, do the bingo, hang out with us for 12 hours, those are my thoughts. Bingo shot for you. There we go. So that's all.
Let's do it. Or at least beyond the first few hours, I reckon. That sounds good.
I think it's mainly a whole bunch of people wanting to take the piss out of me. But there are also prizes if you complete the bingo. The top prize is a Gotrek Grungerson model. The bottom prize is, let me just double check this, is a Joseph Bugman model. So it depends. Do you want to be drunk
Nice.
at the bottom or hard as nails at the top? Which I don't know. What would you go for?
Oh, Gotrek, definitely. I've already got one over on my shelf behind me, but I wouldn't say no to a second one. Such a cool model.
Such a cool model. So that'll be Saturday. If you're interested, join us. It'll be fun. And any money we raise, we're going to go and throw towards the NHS, which I think is obviously a more than worthwhile charity. And if we don't raise enough money, obviously I'll just go feral and start stabbing some rich people and stealing all their money. Obviously, that's a joke, in quotation marks. Right.
I could get it. Sounds fun.
Right, so Joel, could you introduce yourself? Who are you? Where you based? How long you been into Age of Sigmar?
Yeah. Oh, well, how about I spin a little tale? I've been in the hobby for almost 20 years now, stemming back to like third ed 40k. Been playing Sigmar since it first started. Back when I think 7th ed 40k was out. Used to love that game so much. And then 8th came out and slowly went to Age of Sigmar as like my main game. And then now that's all I play. Absolutely love it. I'm based in
what was it you liked?
Victoria.
Sorry, just what was it you liked about 7th edition 40k at that point?
Well, it was just what I knew, right? So I kind of feel like what one of the old fantasy players felt like when Age of Sigmar was brought in, the old world blew up. When 8 came, it kind of killed the joy I had for the game. What I actually liked about it, though, I don't know, I used to play Covens, so Dark Elder, but like the Homunculus Covens supplement. That those units were amazing fun, and I used to really enjoy playing with them. Never the most competitive, but they were still lots of fun. And when 8 came out, they just turned to shit. Yeah, I don't know. I just in Australia we played a system called Community Comp, which basically you had your like 2,000 points or whatever for your army, and then you also had this Community Comp sort of score for your list. And they were always really good in that because while there was a couple of really good things, it was never too sort of OP broken. And it just sort of helped balance, and the games are always fun and all that. So. Yeah.
Okay. Good. All right. Positive. Sorry, I just wanted to ask. Sometimes it's like, is it the mechanics? Was it the community at that point, and that was really strong, and then it happened to move away when the edition changed? It's just interesting to find out, right?
Yeah. Well, with the community, so where I'm based is Bendigo, Victoria. It's depending on who you ask, it's an hour and a half up the road from Melbourne, and it's the home of the mighty Measured Gaming. So it's what these shirts are, right? And I've always had a really good community around me, 10 to 20 odd people who are all really sort of tight-knit. It's a really tight-knit community. Like, I'm sure that there's a few of the guys who would be happy to cuck their misses out to one of us.
Wow. Wow, that's a big claim.
Maybe not that extreme. Maybe not that extreme, but that's how close we are. We catch up. We do things outside of the hobby together as well. It's a really core group based on years and years of friendship. I guess we were all sort of playing 40k at the time, so it was sort of felt no different to what it does now. It's just that we're playing more tournaments, and we're all just closer again. So that's pretty much me. I'll do a couple of other things, I suppose. You said I could plug my shit, so I'm going to do it now. I'm the co-host for a podcast called Push Radio, which is definitely not suitable for work or young ears. It's basically just us getting on the piss for, I think the last 3 episodes we've done has been over 4 hours, so it gets pretty messy. And I also do battle reports and shit like that on YouTube, so Measured Gaming on YouTube. Yeah,
there you go.
That's pretty much
That's
me.
a good plug. I think. I think that's absolutely. I think one of the toughest challenges I had when I went to do coverage, not just outside of Games Workshop for the first year or so, for me was relaying what events and tournaments are actually like to people. Like, it's quite like. A tournament is full of all sorts of characters and human beings, right? And most often than not, they're an opportunity for people to go and get quite pissed. Like that's fair to say. I think pretty much all over. So it's really hard to whenever we did the coverage, it was hard to ignore that or not even ignore it. I remember like one of our earlier Bobo coverages, like the most drunk Pirate Pete I've ever seen in my life, just screaming "fuck Nagash" down the microphone, which was hilarious. So I think having shows where people get pissed and talk about the things that they love is just as valid as people being straight laced and normal. It's just different courses for different folks, right? Which is fine.
Yeah, well, look, where I'm from, so Bendigo, a lot of the guys who are from here, including myself, were basically brought up in a pub. Like pub culture is a huge thing in country Australia, especially in Bendigo. So, yeah, it's just all what we've known is to get on the piss and have a good time. So I'm happy doing that.
Good.
So is everyone else that I associate myself with.
So
we always have a good time, you know. Most of us are in 3 different states across the tournament weekend. It's either drinking, drunk, or hungover. Or it's normally sort of a combination of the two, well, 2 of the 3. So it's always fun.
Good. I'm positive about that. I just want to say a big apology to everyone online right now who's watching with internet being a bit wank is the only real way to describe it. But
is that fine?
No, it's not you, it's me. But everyone can hear you fine, which is fine. All right. So our subject for today is talking about Beasts of Chaos. Did you always love Beasts of Chaos, or like how did you get into them? Has it always been your main faction?
So back when I used to play 40k, I always sort of looked into fantasy and thought, oh man, these guys are cool. It's actually the Doomball model, which I just sort of fell in love with. I'm like, I really want that. When the next edition of fantasy comes out, I'm going to jump on board. And that just so happened to be Age of Sigmar. So that was that. Never actually picked up the beasts until probably it would have been the General's Handbook, I think the second one, when they had Brayherd as their own sort of allegiance inside that book. And I just fell in love with the gameplay, the potential, plus the models are awesome. So and the fluff. I'm definitely a fluffy bunny, so the narrative really appeals to me. Yeah.
That's it. Good. All right, positives. So, what is it? Which bit of the narrative do you particularly enjoy?
I just love the fact that they live in forests and raid and pillage all the civilians. I just think that's awesome. It's like sort of a Viking mentality, except instead of doing it from boats and the ocean, they're doing it from the forest. So I just love the savagery of them and how primal they are. So even though they're chaos, they're more like a destruction army of anything. I don't know. I just really like it. I can't really pinpoint one thing. It's just a collection of it all.
Well, you have a big supporter in the chat, Mr. Colonel Cabbage, who's also probably one of the most serious Beast of Chaos players I know around the world. He has been in the chat every day forever, just being like, have you thought about Beast of Chaos? Any unit, like review Fire Slayers is like, but have you thought about Beast of Chaos? Have you thought about Cygor? And my answer would be, no, I haven't, but maybe I should.
Fucking Cygor. The fucking Cygor, mate. The boys in the WhatsApp have been giving me shit saying, oh, make sure you talk about Cygor, so here's my opportunity. They're fucking garbage.
What don't you like about...
Even for what's deemed a shit.
Well, yeah, I think...
They're just... Oh, mate, they're just...
Sorry, no, after you. Yeah. After you. Please continue.
Oh, I was done. I was just dribbling.
Oh, okay. Well, one of the... one of the reasons that it's really exciting talking about Beasts of Chaos, obviously, is that they have one of the lowest win rates in Age of Sigmar. In fact, well, competitively, obviously, around the world. And in fact, actually, event-wise, as far as I'm aware, I'd have to double-check this, and I probably should have before the show started, is that they've only got 2 podiums ever. 2 first places. They've had podiums, but 2 first places at events. You have done well with them, but never first placed with them. Is that correct?
No, that's right. So those first places / podiums were what's the UK Master with that? With his Zinch Bok list, basically. I really don't like Mark Beasts. As I said before, I'm a fluffy bunny, so there's always a bit of infighting between the unmarked beasts, thinking that the marked beasts are weak, which they are, even though they do better in tournaments. You know, it is what
Yeah,
it
I
is.
think actually I couldn't agree with you more because if you actually look at Dan's list or Dan or Mark's list, get into that row whenever you want to. It's just the same unit spammed all the time. It's just max enlightened. It's a bit like when we saw maxed Skyfires at one point, but the same. They were just a super, and it's max. It's same as when you see just maxed Eels. Like it's just the same unit repeated on all over the time. So I don't think it's a fair representation of an army being used well, especially as it's a unit you can use in any other army. Maybe the fact that it was in Beasts and it could go a little bit faster and it had access to some spells, but it wasn't, I would say, a particularly enlightened list or a list. And surely you had to play it well because he's the only person who ever won with that list. Not that there were many people running it. But similarly, I don't think it's a fair representation of the faction, right? Or do you not agree? Do you?
No,
Uh,
no, I don't agree with that at all. I think we're enlightened. They're just like the boring choice, or just Zangors in general, just the boring choice. Sure, they're good. They're probably better played in Zinch. I, it. I just prefer the unmarked sort of units and using the actual faction instead of just a subcategory of said faction. You
yeah,
know?
and I think that's super fair. And I think it's got some great tools. But like talking to you about how you've done well with them, but also where you've struggled with them, might be one of the really interesting parts of the conversation, right? So should we start with
Yeah,
the allegiance ability? Just start there and work our way through.
sure thing. I'll just get my book out. Uh, well, all right. So I think the Herdstone's the first on our list,
Yeah,
isn't it? Yep. So in my opinion, this thing is the best piece of terrain for any faction in the game. Uh, what it does is it's has an aura and it grows. It starts at 6 inches and grows 6 inches every battle round. Start of every battle round. If enemy units are within the range of said Herdstone, they're neg 1 to their save. And then if your units are wholly within the range, you're immune to battle shock.
wow.
So it's really cool.
Yeah, it is, but it's quite a small space, right? The thing I've always seen about the Herdstone, or I've always, whenever I've played against Beast of Chaos, and that's been more than once, I played the Myhills as well, who Rick Myhill specifically is also another great Beast of Chaos player. But just where it was, it just didn't affect me. Like I just didn't give a shit about it. Like, is that am I playing that
Yeah.
wrong, or like is that not? Did like I'm not saying he deployed it in the wrong place. So I don't think that's the case. I think he knows that army quite well. But is it hard to use?
Yes and no. You want to put it sort of central to the battlefield, but you also want it where it's going to affect, say, the middle objective in certain battle plans, or if you're playing one of the hero battle plans with the three, you want it to be sort of affecting the two because it's not going to affect all of them. So the quicker that you can get the aura onto where you'll be actually fighting and contesting the objective, the better use you're gonna get out of it.
Okay.
So
So so generally good advice is
it's a big deal.
yeah, generally good advice is to place it somewhere near objectives for the battle plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thing to note as well, it really comes in to its own. It's worth its weight in gold at later stages of the game. When it's 24 inches or 30-inch range, it's huge. It's covering most of the board by then. And when you're usually with this army and how I play, you're scrambling through objectives turn 4 and 5. Just makes even Ungors, like with neg 1 Ren, just so much better.
Okay. Good. Good. Yeah. The sorry, I think there's a bit of a delay. You're like leaving the gap for me, and I'm
Yeah,
like, another bit. Yeah, I think it's really good because there are other ways to get minus rend in the army, right?
yes, yeah, there's heaps. Absolutely heaps. So, do you want me to touch on those real
Please,
quick?
yeah, that'd be good. Or do it in whichever order you think is most relevant for the army.
No, no, we'll talk about it now. Why not? So, Beasts of Chaos, they're really good against like Petrifex Elite, purely for the fact that you can bloody get like neg 4, neg 5 rend on a unit. It's not uncommon. Well, you need a few things to line up, but it does happen every now and again. So there's a spell from the Bray Shaman Law, which is neg 1 save to an enemy unit, casting value of 7. So it's unlikely to go off, but when it does, it really affects your output. Then there is Shaggoth spell, which is +1 rend. And then what else is there? Oh, then the Herdstone. So yeah, you can get an extra potentially -3 rend on your attacks.
Which will go through pretty much any armor save effectively. Even like as you
Yes.
said, Petrifex is going to take them to a 5-6 up save rerolling.
Yep. And then say Vestigors, if you put all the buffs on them, they're going to be -4. So Mortek guards suddenly don't have a save at all.
Which is decent because you need them to not have a save effectively.
Correct. Yes.
Some people want me to mention your shirt. Has anyone mentioned your shirt? Do you want to quickly let people know about your shirt and the guys' shirts when you go to events?
Well, thing. So at Measured Gaming, we all wear the year's Hawaiian shirt to all the events. So there's probably there's always like 10 of us or more even wearing the exact same shirt there, embroidered with our names on it and the club and all that. We get a new one for every CanCon, and then throughout the year we just wear them. That's our tournament shirt. So instead of wearing the typical black with a white logo on the breast, we go all out with the Hawaiian shirt. So it's a bit of fun.
I also don't appreciate everyone cussing out my shirt in the show in comparison, as if it was not as nice. Also, Mr. Positive Victim in the chat says he wants a shirt. How can he get one? I'm sure he can message you on the twits.
Yes, yeah, that's right. We'll get it embroidered for you. We'll send it over.
Good. And Ian Patelli on Facebook says it's a lovely shirt. Good. All right. I would like this on every show, by the way. The next time we have a guest on, if they don't dress to impress, I'd like you guys to make sure we let them know. Thanks, Joel, for dressing to impress. It means a lot to us. So, yeah, you've got...
the best thing about them...
Okay, go on.
Sorry, the best thing about them is just being able to find your mates, like in a crowd of people. It's like, oh, who's over there? Oh, yeah, here's one of my guys. I'm going to just go over there and find them. It's so good.
It's the best. I went on a stag do once, and I'm not really into fancy dress. And having worked in nightclubs a lot of my life, not really into gangs of lads wearing the same outfits. I don't know why, it's some sort of aversion. But we had to wear these pink Pussy Patrol t-shirts, which obviously not my choice, my friend's Stag. He's divorced now, probably his own fault. That's really mean. He's one of my closest friends. But anyway, the point is, when we were out in the club, which was, by the way, everyone, if in the UK, a Butlins for a 90s weekend, it was glorious and awful. I could find my mates in the club in a fucking heartbeat. I was like, pink t-shirt, there they are. Like, it's the best. It's so useful. You're just like, I know you're one of my mates. Like, in the future, that's the only way I'm going through. That's what I'm doing. Everyone dressed in one check shirt. That's organised. But yeah, it's actually really useful. I've got nowhere to go with this story, so please start talking about Beast of Chaos. That'd be great.
Well, where do we want to go to now? You want to keep going through the allegiance abilities?
Well, yeah, if you think it's relevant.
Just real quick. So the only one that's really relevant is the Brayherd Ambush. Now, all the Brayherd units, and there is a way in this book to get like Warherd and Thunderscorn to do it as well, but I wouldn't recommend it. They can just come on at the end of turn 1, 9 away, 6 in from the board edge. So it's kind of handy, but kind of not at the same time. I think it's more of a trap than anything. The only time I really use it is for like a unit of 10 Bestigors to ambush in and go and kill something weak, basically. Also serves a purpose for if you can't fit all your models in your deployment zone, you can just keep them off the table.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. So I don't, or if you're facing like a KO army or something who's just going to blow you off the table, you can set up all your important shit off the board just to prevent the damage if they were to come at you turn 1.
That's quite nice. So, if you happen to play against the KO, trying to like drop in and shoot all your stuff, has it been fairly useful to?
Yeah. I played against Danny Plays at Summer Smash. I think it was game 4, and I kicked his ass.
Oh,
maybe game 3. I can't remember. But yeah, so that was on Focal Points. I had 180 odd bodies or whatever it was, and yeah, he had a couple of boats. That was that. Just couldn't kill me fast enough, even though he killed half my army with a double turn. But still, like 100 bodies left, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the strengths of the army.
Yeah, that's good. That's
Yeah,
good. I hadn't thought about that. So it's less something you rely on. It's more of a matchup dependent strategy to put stuff off the board.
for sure. Yeah, I do love having one unit of 10 Bestigors off the table, and you with Beast of Chaos you can summon as well. So you throw some Ungors on the barbecue, and you rack up some points, and you can summon on like Chimeras and Gorgons and all the big stuff, or you can just summon on like Chaos Spawns or Ungors or whatever. So two ends of the spectrum. Now, in the where I'm going with this story is I ambushed on 10 Bestigors against not Nagash, it was Arkan in a Petrifex Elite, and 10 Bestigors managed to take Arkan off in one turn. Just got the charge, turn one, and took him off.
Wow. Yeah,
That's
it
because
feels like Bestigor are like the powerhouse of the armies. One of the people in the chat earlier were talking about Gore, and we've also got Ian Patelli over on Facebook who's talking about Ungor Raiders. He's asked why Bestigor. Why do you ambush the Bestigor, not Ungor Raiders? Because he loves Bestigor, so he really wants to hear more about that.
I just think a cheeky unit of 10 somewhere, even if you don't drop them 9 away, like if you don't want to have to charge them, if you don't need to charge them, then you don't. It's still 10 Bestigors that are in your opponent's backfield, right? Whereas Ungor Raiders, they're fine. But honestly, you probably want them sort of on the board, on the objectives behind your screens. That's because their teams are on 25 mil bases, and this is a big thing. Bestigors are on 32s, Ungor Raiders are on 25s. You can just simply get more bodies on objectives if you have the Raiders where they need to be.
All right, good shout. Good shout. There you go. So, thanks for the answer. Please continue. Please continue. Are we at any point actually going to talk about Dragon Ogres, or do they not really feature at all in the way you see the army playing?
We can talk about them now.
Well, it's just in the Allegiance ability. I'm like,
they're fine.
Are they a thing? Or are they not a thing?
No. Look, you can use them as like a screen if you wanted to, similar to how people were using the Stormcast bird thingos, the Griff Chargers, whatever they're called. They're 5 wounds a model, 4 up save, but they're just like they're fast, but they don't do anything. They're just sort of there, and they're only 3 models right per unit. So I'd just prefer to have 140 points for 3 of them. I'd just prefer to have 20 Ungor. More bodies. That's what it's all about. You just need to put as much shit in your army as you can because it's going to die, and so you may as well try and just increase your odds of actually being able to survive long enough to hold the objectives, right? Because this army does not kill. It does not kill stuff. It just scores and then it dies. So it's always a fun time for your opponent, win or lose, because they're killing a whole heap of shit. I don't know. It's just one of those picks. If you want to win with the army, don't take Dragon Ogres.
Yeah, that is.
If you want to have fun with them, take them.
Okay, fair points. I can see definitely where this is going to go. This is a strategy of as many dudes as possible, all the lads. So just basically, you basically just organise a stag weekend with the Beasts of Chaos is what I'm getting from you, effectively.
Just lots and lots of them, yeah.
Good.
Like in my summoning pool that I bring with me, it's only an extra unit of Ungors. I just recycle whatever's dead. Like, there's a couple of spawn in there for reasons I'll touch on in a sec, but it's never anything big. I have a Chimera and a Cockatrice for lols, just in case I'm kicking the shit out of my opponent. I just want to get something fun on the table, but yeah, it's normally just more body.
I really like the idea of when I spoke to Nick. This is before the new Seraphon book, but Nick, who does the 40k show with me, he and has run Seraphon for a long time. He would always summon. He always had a Troglodon in his summoning pool, just for the kind of troll summon. He's doing really well. He'd summon the Troglodon just to let you know that you're losing really badly. So a Cockatrice is your version of that.
Mate, they're good actually. Like 100 points, they're actually garbage, but they can pull off something magical once in every 10 games. And that's, you summon them on, and then on a 4+, they do D6 models to a support hero up the back and kill it. Right? That's amazing for free, but there's obviously far better choices, like more bodies.
all the time. Yeah, summon more lads for the stag.
All the time.
Yeah. So please continue. Sorry, I think I derailed you enough.
the reason why I have Spawn in my summoning pool is because there's 3 sub-allegiances. So there's Dark Walkers, All Herd, and Gave Spawn. Now, Gave Spawn is the only one which I would personally recommend to look at least. And that's because Spawn get a command ability. Right? And this command ability works similar to the old Iron Jaws War, like when you used to be able to spam it. Because that's basically what it is. Pick a friendly unit, wholly within 12. For a CP, they get an extra attack, right? And you can still spam it. So that's coming off the Spawn, which is just bizarre. And that's how the 10 Bestigors were able to kill Petrocan, was charge them in, and then I think they had like 10 attacks each. So, boom.
Yeah, I remember when we did the review show, that was Nathan's hot pick. Nathan was like, people are going to just spam this command ability and put it on, and then but his argument was as well is that because it's just on a spawn, or it has to be done from a spawn, that it's going to be really hard to actually achieve. So yeah, can you describe the command ability to us again, what it actually does?
Yep. So pick a spawn. If you do so, pick a friendly Gave Spawn unit wholly within 12 inches of the friendly Gave Spawn Chaos Spawn. Add 1 to the attack's characteristic of that unit's melee weapons until the end of that phase.
You can just keep doing
use
it
at the start of combat. Yep. Just keep going. If you're playing in a tournament or a game where you're using realm artifacts, you take the Ether Quartz Brooch and just roll those 5-ups, baby. So
all day,
yep.
Just keep spamming them. Nathan's suggestion at the time was: have you ever done like +10 attacks onto a Gargant and then just gone wild?
Not on a Gargant, no, but on Gary the Gorgon, I have. He's done some work in the past, but not on a Gargant, unfortunately.
Gary the Gorgon with +10 attacks actually sounds quite scary. That's genuinely true. Okay.
Yeah, well, he's got attack profiles, so it's actually not a bad candidate for it. Same as what are they? Bulgors. They got 2 attack profiles now as well. So if you're just getting extra for your command points spent, right? So
yeah, +2 attacks. So
it's not a bad shot.
No, not at all. Like, and also maybe Centaur. Do you get 2 attacks on Centaur as well, but not really?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, because they will be a Gave Spawn unit. You take this.
I think just a big shout.
They got built-in rolls, though.
A big shout out to Darren in the chat, who obviously has just become incredibly excited that you've just mentioned the Aether Quartz Brooch. He's now just spamming brooch emojis, which I didn't even know Twitch had. So it's interesting to see those. So please continue. Where I don't know where we were at that point. I think we were at allegiance abilities, but then I derailed you. So sorry.
Yeah, I am. I'm jumping around because the rest of the allegiance abilities are pretty garbage. So basically, we've touched on the summoning and the Herdstone. That's basically the only 2 things in there, apart from the ambush. What the Thunderscorn get is they can move D6 inches at the start of the hero phase. It's not bad, but it's still only on Thunderscorn units. Then with the Warherd units, they can heal D3 wounds that have been allocated to them if they kill stuff in combat. So nothing overly special. No. That's why I've just jumped to where the good shit is.
Well, good. So start us off. What is it what do you think is in there that's key? Like, what's a key element of a Beast of Chaos army, and how does it work?
It's definitely the Gave Spawn. So you get the command ability to make your shit actually kill stuff. Your heroes, when they die on a 2+, they also turn into a spawn, which this has a lot of really good interaction, which can fuck your opponent up because you can place them anywhere within 6 of where they died. So if they're on for the next turn and your hero dies in your turn, you can put them within 3 inches of a unit that you don't want moving. So you can actually lock them in place. That's why I really like the Gave Spawn anyway. All Herd is basically the boosted summoning faction. So you can spend command points to get an extra primordial call point, which is your summoning points. And then Dark Walkers, I wouldn't even worry talking.
Good. A bit like Dragon Ogres. Yeah, they're all right. They're there, but we'll move straight on. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
So then you go from sub-factions, allegiances, sub-factions, and then spell lore, I guess. What's happening in the spell lore? Is there anything decent?
The only spell that I like taking is called Tendrils of Atrophy. Now, this is the spell which subtracts 1 from the save rolls of your enemy unit. So it's actually a casting value of 6. Pick a unit within 12, subtract 1 from their save rolls. This is just guaranteeing extra damage or extra output from your units that are usually pretty shit. So that's the only one that I sort of really like. You don't have a whole lot of options really. it's that, or you can bloody, what is it? Reroll failed wound rolls with Wild Rampage, but you neg 1 to your save. Now, the way that this army works is you really want your stuff to survive for as long as possible, right? If you're neg 1 into your save, it's just you're just losing even more bodies than what you're sort of accounting for. So, yeah, I've like there's a couple of mortal wound spells, but they're not that great. Like you got Arcane Bolt there, yeah. Sorry, there's not much to talk about here.
You don't have to be sorry at all. No, it's a fair point. Like if there's nothing useful, do you ever end up putting, because it's a 12-inch range? Do you find you're able to actually get it off very often, or do you take a spell portal to try and interact? Because I look at that and I think I'm very likely never going to actually be able to use that in the game, or is that not the case?
That's not the case the way that I play. So Bray Shamans cast this spell, right, and they're moving 9 inches. Because they add plus 3 inch movement to themselves and also all your other Bray Herd units that start wholly within 12, which is really nice because you're getting basically run and charge on all your sort of goats, and it's basically a roll. You're moving 10 plus a d6 for your run, and they can run and charge, so they're actually really fast. And you want that Bray Shaman sort of up close with those units, and with playing Gave Spawn, you kind of want them after the first couple of turns, once you've got the use out of them, to turn into a spawn anyway, because that's going to be more valuable to you in sort of at the end of the game than what a shaman is.
Yeah, fair enough. And then you've also, but there is another great spell inside that army, right? Coming on the Bray Shaman. Devolve?
Which one?
Devolve on the Bray Shaman?
Oh, yes. Yep, so that's on their war spell.
Yeah.
Now that's like a Mortal Kombat Scorpion, get over here kind of thing. I use that a fair bit. So that's an 18-inch range, casting value of 7, and the enemy unit that you choose has to move 2d6 towards the closest one of your units. Now this is really good to pull things off of objectives like half-cutters, for example, that you don't want to be in a fight with. You pull them outside of their range of their hero. Use your Ungor Raiders to then shoot them, and then that's when you can charge them and start doing damage with Gave Spawn plus attacks and neg 1 to their save and all that sort of thing. So it's hard to pull off, but when it does, when the stars align again, it's quite good.
Decent. So what units are we taking? Like what units do we love in this army? Like how, which ones are there?
The War Scrolls which I use, Ungor Raider, Tax Gores, and Besta Gores, basically, apart from like the Beast Lord and the Bray Shamans. So Ungors are great because they're 60 points for 10 wounds. That's pretty much all they do. And also you can throw them on the Herdstone. Ungor Raiders are amazing because they're that again, except they have the range output as well as their combat attacks. So projecting power, which isn't a great deal, but still being able to chip wounds off key heroes or units off objectives just to get more bodies onto the objective, basically, is just more damage. We know how good Ungor Raiders are. The 6-inch pre-game move and rada. But
sorry, Joel, we don't know how good they are because, like, actually, one of the things for me talking about it is, to me, they're still. I know the book's been out a long time. But the representation of people who've ever played Beast of Chaos has always been pretty low. Them doing very well is quite low. So it's down to you to actually sell them to us because I've read the War Scroll and I'm like I'm gonna paint some of those, and a lot of that's been Colonel Cabbage in the chat poking me to do it. But you don't generally see them mixed into Chaos armies because you can also take them as allies. Are they very good or are they just good?
Well, what they do is for any Chaos army is it's alpha prevention, right? So you got that 6-inch pre-game move, so you're extending deep strikes out by 9+6, so 15 inches. So against KO, for example, now their small guns aren't in range. If you deploy far back enough, all your important stuff, they're not going to be able to be targeted. That's one of their reasons why they're so good, right? It's just that 6-inch pre-game move. Plus, then they're cheap chaff who are, doing a couple of shots here and there and pinging off those extra couple of wounds that you need to be able to kill a hero. That's why I like them for. I just think that they're great. They're great objective holders. They're fast. They can run and shoot.
That's really strong. Have you ever thought about taking big blocks of them?
Yeah, mate. So in my list, I usually run 2 units of 30. Reason for that is when they're a unit of 30, they get to reroll hit rolls of 1 and 2, which is quite nice because they're 4s and 4s. So being able to give them just extra dice to wound is really good. So, yeah, I normally run 2 units of 30 plus then also 2 units of 10. So I have the 10s up the front, then the 30s up the sort of in the middle there, just to sort of push out when I need them to.
Yeah, well, that's quite.
I love them.
It's quite. Yeah, that 60 of them is actually quite a bit. Like they sound a little, but I suppose they're cheap enough. I guess you could call them chaff. But that's a lot of shots, right? That's like 60 shots that you're firing in. Do you aim for support characters or screens, or it just depends what's available?
Yeah, anything. As long as I can sort of kill a couple of models here and there with them, anything. Right. What I do with them usually, though, is if I can get like the Wildfire Taurus off to go and clip a couple of support heroes, I'll use them to try and finish them off. But without that sort of mortal wound push on those units, you kind of can't kill stuff. I've had 2 units of 30 kill a Bloodthirster before, so they roll a lot of dice.
And sometimes it just goes your way.
They're not bad.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ungor Raiders, good shout for people at home.
Yeah. Ungors are good just because they're cheap again. Cheaper. They're 60 points for 10. Gores, not so great. But what they are is they're 10 bodies with a 4+ save in combat, so it's not so bad. I think they're 70 points for 10. So cheaper than Ungor Raiders, a little bit more expensive than Ungors, but they're on 32 mil bases, so they're taking up more area on objectives. So you're getting less bodies basically in that 6-inch sort of bubble. And then Bestigors. Now these guys are definitely the heavy hitters of the Brayherd sort of units. They've got 2 attacks each base, 4s and 3s, neg 1 damage. When they charge, they get an extra attack, so now they're 3 attacks each. When they're fighting against Order, they get to reroll hit rolls of 1. And then when they're fighting units with 10 or more models, so they're great against other sort of horde units, they add 1 to hit rolls. So built-in reroll 1s, built-in +1 to hit, extra attacks on their war scroll. They're a really good unit. 120 points for 10. You can't go wrong.
No, it's super cheap. Like I was looking at their points before the show just to refresh myself, and it's bonkers cheap. Like I can understand why your methodology is to go for bodies because the points support that, right? Like those 2 units of 30 Ungor Raiders are not overly like they're not. It's not a massive commitment in points, but yeah, 120 points is
400 points, 480 points for 60 wounds.
It's yeah.
It's bug.
And they're fast as well.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say a couple of things in the chat, if you don't mind. We've had over on YouTube, Pancake has said, shout out to the tax scores who have to be in your list because they're battle line, right? I think they're not your only battle line.
No, well, all the Gore units are battle line. If you've got a Beast Lord or a Brave Shaman as your general, which I always do. So basically my entire army is heroes and battle line, except for the Raiders, who they're just another unit now. But so in the list that I run, there's a battalion called the Desolating Beast Herd. Now it's 150 points, and it's basically a one-click army, right? So it's got your entire army in one package, and the benefit of it is, if you're wholly within enemy territory, 6 is to hit at 2 hits. So suddenly your stuff's turned into Slaanesh, basically, which is quite cool.
Yeah, it's
just helps. Yeah, just extra damage, extra dice.
Yeah, sorry, you continue. I overrated that. Yeah, because you see a lot of people take them into best of go into Slaanesh to get all those sixes to hit anyway, and then double it up with the Keepers of Secrets to I guess mitigate. But you do the same thing, but you stick within Beast of Chaos, right?
Correct, yeah. Just because the Herdstone's better than the Fane, right? So yeah, the Herdstone's great. Plus, then you've got the access to the spells. So, well, the spell Tendrils of Atrophy. Yeah, and then I don't know. I just prefer Beast of Chaos as Beast of Chaos. If you couldn't tell.
But it's quite rare to it's quite rare to still be able to get those one-click battalions, right?
Well, the armies, you want it to be low drop as well. So you can be one drop just if you just take that. I'm normally 2 or 3 now, just because I add in like a Spawn or Grashrag Fellhoof, who's another Brave Shaman. He's the He was the Shadespire Underworlds. He's that dude, Beastgrave, wherever he was from. He's pretty cool. He's got a +1 to hit spell.
No, it's okay. It's a bit weird that the company keep renaming their own game. It's super weird.
Yeah, it's bizarre. So yeah, old mate Grashy, he's not bad. But I dropped him out of my army because he's a 2-drop basically for 1 wizard because he comes with his 5 buddies. So it really pushes those drops out. And you kind of want to be able to dictate with this army. Any little benefit and choice that you can influence, the better. Just because if you hand over those terms to your opponent, they're going to be able to dictate where the game's played and how it's played. And you don't want that because you're already pushing shit uphill with this faction.
Definitely. It's a whole bunch of them. But to be fair, they're goats. They probably shit a lot anyway, so it's not an issue.
That's
so
yeah. That's pretty much the army in a nutshell, mate. Unless if you've got more questions.
Well, yeah,
we've still got plenty.
Sorry, I'd like to. You've sent some example lists as well, so I'd like to talk through those if you're interested. But yeah, if you do have any questions for Joel, I think that's fun. One of my questions, if you don't mind, just jump off, is do you run Centaur? Do you rate Centaur or not really?
I don't run Centaur personally, no, because they don't fit in the battalion that I run. Now, they are a really good unit. I see a lot of value in them, but I just don't want to push my drops out anymore. It's either them or a Spawn for most cases because I don't want to go higher than 2 usually. So if I'm already running 100, 120, 130 bodies, I don't really have a purpose for Centaurs. They kind of, while they're super quick, like they move 14 inches or whatever it is, don't they? They're super fast. They've got built-in rerolls, but they're doing the same sort of job as what Ungor are, in my opinion. So you've got all the Ungor units are moving 10 plus D6 for a run plus a charge, right? Because they're always going to be within range of a shaman. So sure, it's like 4 inches less. Well, actually, it would be 7 inches less than what Centaurs could move, but it's already fast enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think they're already fast. I think the beasts. I don't think you need to be any faster, because also, I mean, if you could deliver something terrifying when you get there, but Centaur just do okay-ish damage, like that, you're not really running across, which I think is fair. So I've got some other questions in the chat. One is from Arek. He says, if I'm not mistaken, I saw a unit of 6 Bulgor last year. Could you talk about how you played them? Mine usually just get clipped by a Geminids and take a smoke break for a turn or something along those lines. So,
yeah, I debuted with the beast actually at CanCon last year. So it was the first year that you were over, I think. I came 4th with it, and I had 6 Bulgors in my army, which I wasn't expecting to go that good, but they were served as a mop-up crew sort of unit, so they were always in range of the Herdstone. They were only ever going and engaging where I needed them to on the table. So like with this army, you can't not just pushing shit forward and wiping your opponent in one turn. It's really surgical striking that you need to implement to actually be able to just win the game based on objectives. So these guys are always sitting back, or they were bait. They never actually did a whole lot, but when they did it when I needed it to happen. So I'm actually toying with having 6 Bulgors back in my army, just because I need that second unit to really deliver the punch where I need it. So not a bad unit, but hard to get working, potential to whiff.
Especially if they're minus to hit, that's a big issue as well. I can completely see that. So another thing that came up, I think, on Facebook as well as in the Twitch chat, because we're on all the platforms apparently right now. From Carol, he talks about Tuskor chariots, 40 attacks on the charge in all herd. You need to lose 2 to make the buckshot roll. So he's all in on chariots, as is someone over on Twitch as well is all over in on chariots. Desert Sketch. Have you ran chariots? Have you tried chariots? I've seen a version of the the War Scroll Battalion Beast of Chaos that played where it explodes and it does mortal wounds around, and a whole bunch of chariots being taken because they're super cheap. But I guess you're going to just say more bodies are better, right? That's the general game plan.
Pretty much, yeah. If you couldn't tell from me talking about Dragon Ogres, yeah, Centaurs, not Centaurs, the Tuskor chariots, they're really cheap. They're 60 points for a 6 wound model with a 4-up save, so it's not too bad. I think they've got a built-in reroll to charge, so you can use them to ambush turn 1 because they have the Brayherd keyword, and go tie up a unit of shooters. Insert shooting unit's name here, and to go and sort of maybe get the charge and tie them up for a turn. But they're not scoring objectives, they're not winning you the game. They're just delaying the inevitable, really, in my opinion.
Yeah, so the whole strategy with this list is with these lists and with this army is secure the objectives, just make that your mission, do nothing else, right?
Correct, yep. Don't engage with multiple units, only engage with the one, and make sure that what you're attacking dies or is crippled enough where you're not actually losing as many bodies. So it's really attrition-y. And you're doing it with units that just can't really kill anything. So it's Age of Sigmar on hard mode, but you can win with it.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fair. Colonel Cabbage in the chat, who runs like a very kind of different style list to you. So he goes Bulgor heavy and then goes for command ability stacking, which is quite interesting as a different way to run it. What are the matchup you struggle with, and how are you looking to improve your odds against said matchups? Is one of the questions.
Yeah. So the matchup, there's no specific army, but there's a few of them which sort of fit into this bracket. And those are armies that hit and wound on 2s, that can re-roll everything, and that have more attacks than what I do. So if you can bust through the horde of goats faster than sort of what I want you to, then it's game over because I've just got nothing to throw back at you. So prime examples are Daughters of Cain. They're resilient. They've got a lot of dice. They've got re-rolls. They're getting through my armor. Big War with Ard Boys with 2 damage with all the attacks in the world, 2s and 2s. They're killing shit super quick, faster than what I could ever imagine. And then, what is it? Khorne, funnily enough, with Marauder spam. With reroll hits and wounds and all that, they just carve through goats like butter. Any Beast of Chaos, really, because nothing's got a better save than a 4+. So, yeah, they're the armies that I struggle with. I haven't struggled against. It's always been a close game against Change Host, but I've always beaten them.
What was your advantage against Change Host? Do you think? Because obviously they're one of the boogeymen out there.
Yeah, so I've versed 3 Flame Hosts. Whatever the Eternal Conflagration. Yep. Flamer heavy Change Hosts. They just don't have the bodies to compete. Like they've got lots of shooting, and I'm normally fucked by the end of the game in terms of what I've got left. But I've just got enough on the table to be able to outscore them and all that. Ungor Raiders are actually really good against Flamers because they just shoot the fuck out of them, and you're just wiping units of 3 or 6. Just because they're so squishy.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also, the Ungor Raiders aren't overly a massive. I mean, they aren't that they're a threat because, as you said, they do stuff. But you've got so many very fast threats that you can just flood the board very quick. And the Flamers do want Having played with that specific build a while, I always want to make sure that I've got some pink horrors in the way to give myself a few turns to whittle through, because as much as the flamers can do incredible damage, they can't kill everything in a go. Yeah.
That's right. Best thing to throw against pink horrors is 10 Bestigors. So a unit of 10 pinks, 10 Bestigors wipes the unit with Battle Shock. So it's like if you're giving him an extra couple of attacks, that is. But yeah, I've never really struggled too much. Like there was one game where I bockholed him, which is basically summoned on at the dying stages of the game in Knife to the Heart and managed to snag his objective. But I've never really sort of struggled. I've always felt somewhat in control in the game.
All right, decent. So have you got an example list or some lists that you've ran? You want to read us through them and tell us how it worked?
Yeah, you've got them.
Yeah, I got them.
Somewhere.
But I thought you could read them out to us and tell us what you thought.
No, I can't actually because I'm using my phone for this.
No problem. I got you, brother. Easy peasy. 1 second.
If you can.
It's.
There's been a bit of an evolution with this army that I've been running this time around anyway since I've come back to the faction. And the Grashrak list was the first one that I took and went 4-1 with. So I don't know if you can get that one up first.
I can. Easy peasy. Got Grashrak in. Let me just make sure. Yeah. So you've got a Beast Lord. He's got the Unraveling Aura trait and a Mutating Gnarlblade. Those are the trait and the artifact.
Yeah, from Gavespawn. So he can unbind a spell in the hero phase, and he's got an extra 2 damage on his 6 attacks.
And then you've got the Bray Shaman, and obviously Gashrak Fellhoof, who is the Shadespire character, as we talked about before, with the Aether Quartz Brooch on the Great Bray Shaman. There you go.
Yep, there it is.
And then there's 30 Bestigor, and then there's... Wait, they're only 300 points for 30. That's bananas. That's really good. That's really good. And then 2 lots of 10 Bestigor, 2 lots of Ungors, and then a unit of 10 Gore. Then there's obviously Gashrak's Despoilers, but then there are 30 Ungor Raiders, 30 Ungor Raiders, 10 Ungor Raiders, and the Desolating Bray Horde, Umbral Spell Portal, and Wildfire Taurus. So that's your army. So just like you said, loads of bodies on the board, right?
Yeah, mate. So how many wounds is that? It's a shitload. It's about 180 odd, isn't it?
It's 170 wounds, yeah.
So, lots of bodies, a mix of MSU and also large blobs. I think that works best in this army. I don't know. It just controls the board really well. The Wildfire Taurus is probably one of the best endless spells in the game. Not the best, but it's definitely up there. Because whatever that hits makes them fight last in that combat phase, which really helps your guys do the damage they need to try and survive, right? That's an interesting list. So I tried out that at Summer Smash and ended up going 4-1 with it, losing the big wire on the top table. But what I found was that the spell portal gimmick with the Tendrils of Atrophy just wasn't worth it. Just because you've got no bonuses to cast, you've only got 1 cast per wizard. It's just not. It's not great. If I had like Kairos in there or something, it would be much better. But no. I don't know. There's not much else to say about that army to what I've already sort of said throughout this, but it was fun. The second list, though, is the tweaked version.
Okay, so the tweaked version of the list here is... it's here. Is Beast Lord, who's the general with the same stuff again. Great Bray Shaman with the Aether Quartz Brooch. Another great Bray Shaman with the Tendrils of Atrophy. Both of them got that. Then you got 30 Bestigor, 2 lots of 10 Bestigor, 10 Gore and Ungor again. And then you've got 2 lots of 30 Ungor Raider, 1 Chaos Spawn, 2 lots of 10 Ungor Raiders, the Desolating Bray Herd, and Wildfire Taurus, and the extra command point.
Yeah. So the changes to this list was dropping Grashrak, dropping the Umbral Spell Portal, adding in more bodies, essentially. So extra unit of raiders. There was a spawn in there too. I found that I was really lacking like having a spawn in the army. So the first list was a 3-drop. This one's a 2-drop. And yeah, just by having that spawn starting on the table means that if someone was to come at you pretty hard, you can benefit from the Gave Spawn command ability earlier in the game, because usually you're not summoning on a what are they called, a spawn until turn 2 sometimes. So yeah, it was always good to have it. Always good to have it there. But
especially if someone aggro's in really early. There's a lot of armies that aggro turn 1 quite quickly. So having the ability to do that, even if you're getting to choose, obviously with the 2-drop, you're more than likely getting to choose what's happening. But sometimes you might just want to give them the turn, let them hit you a little bit, and then counteract, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of times where I gave away turn 1 because you don't want to get doubled with this army because it's so fragile. So even if you're giving away priority for turn 2 onwards and just keeping turn order, you're mitigating the damage that's coming in, and then you can shoot for that double later in the game, and that's when you'll sort of get the upper hand. It plays a lot differently to other sort of armies, like the ones I rattled off before, like Daughters and Flesh Eater Courts and whatever else, where you just sort of you go in, you're going to try and kill as much shit as possible and win because your opponent's pretty much tabled. This is playing pretty much the exact opposite, where you're not looking to kill stuff, but you're trying to mitigate the damage that's coming in. That's where all the MSU comes into play, because that's pretty much, if it's not blocking off the backfield, it's up front blocking movement. It's never charging. It's just sort of 3 inches away, fencing you into basically wherever you are. So unless if you're flying, it's a bit different. But yeah, being able to use the buffer of just the unit of 10 Ungors is just insane.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like Joel wins in the movement phase. Says Owen Jackson in the chat, and I agree with that completely. Sounds like like where you're looking to is board control, presence, and out attrition and stuff, which is interesting. Especially as I wouldn't really have thought of it as an attrition army. But I guess what you're saying is you don't really specifically aim to kill things. You mainly aim to just make sure those objectives are yours for as long as you can get them, which is not what I thought the army would have played like, to be honest. Even looking at that list, I would have thought you'd have.
That's just how I play it. I'm sure there's other people who like to play it. Going guns blazing with Bulgors and Gave Spawn, but they're not putting up the results, are they? I mean, I'm not King Dick or anything with my 4-1s, but. It's not bad.
No, it's way above the average. It's way above the average. On average, you should be winning 2 games, so you're actually double that, winning 4 at an event based on the stats. And I think just putting anything out there that gives your opponent something difficult to play with is always really interesting as well. It's a faction that, so what is it that you think the faction would need to be a little bit better? Obviously, you've touched on things like the Big War. The Big War is fairly obnoxious. Hit on 2s, wound on 2s, they get +1 damage. It doesn't require almost anything to happen. Beast of Chaos being an older book, what would you like to see for them to ramp up what they've got? Or what do you think that they need? What are they missing?
Well, let's touch on what they've got, right? So they've got bodies, they've got the speed. I don't know what they're missing. They can't be survivable. That's just untrue to the army. Maybe just more attacks, but that's kind of where Gave Spawn comes in. I don't know, man. I don't know what the army actually needs. It needs maybe units like Enlightened or like Skyfires that are unmarked. Maybe make Bulgors better. Give them an extra attack or 2, or give them an extra point of save or something. Make the Cygor good.
Wait,
make
the Cygor isn't good?
Better.
I'm so confused. I thought you started the top of the show with he's great. I wonder if the Cygor is the worst unit in Age of Sigmar. I'm not sure, but it's close.
I wouldn't say the worst, but it would definitely be close, I reckon. It just does nothing. Because its rules never actually got changed when sort of Lookout Sir came into the game. So it was 4s re-rolling against Wizards, which is fine. But now it's 5s re-rolling, I don't know. It needs something a bit more done to it. Give it 20 wounds and it'd still be garbage.
Because it still doesn't do anything. Yeah, absolutely. So it's got, sorry, you were saying, it's got bodies, buff the Cygor in all the ways, hits on 2s, reroll on 1s. That'll be the new version.
Just give it. I don't know. Give us some new sort of Thunderscorn kind of dudes would be nice, or just give them like Rend or something. Like they've got weapons, and they're big dudes, you know. They got 6 attacks on one of their profiles. It's got no Rend. Like they're carrying big swords, they're big bulky ogres. They just have the treatment, the gluttons sort of treatment, don't they? They just except they're 1 damage. It just doesn't make any sense.
None. I don't understand. When we reviewed the scrolls, and it was so interesting as well. When you got to the Zangor, they just got, didn't matter which version you had, Enlightened, Skyfires, or just Zangor on foot. They just had so many more like rules and nice stuff, and then the Beast of Chaos, and you know, similar-ish to what happened to Ogre tribes, where nothing really changed. There were obviously some great sub-faction stuff, but they didn't really update the rules. I'd like to see the Beast. I think the Beast of Chaos are one of the most thematic armies out there for Chaos. I still find I'm quite uncomfortable with Skaven being Chaos. Still creeps me out a little bit, to be honest. But I like just come on. Do you think that's okay? That's weird, right?
They've always been chaosy, though, haven't they? Like they got Nurgle dudes and all that. Yeah, I don't know. They're kind of like beasts, though, aren't they? Where they could sort of pass as destruction too.
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing about beasts. And unfortunately, it's just unfortunate that we're not seeing them played more. So hopefully this show will make people think about it. But it does sound like you. Well, we've all got. Well, if you are furloughed, if you are still working, obviously you're super important. So thanks for doing that, whatever job you're doing. And if you are furloughed and you've got some time to paint, then maybe this is the time to paint 180 dudes and get them on the table or whatever.
It was a labour of love, mate. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, though, I think there's something to be said for that. I think Horde armies traditionally do well, and the thing that you kept touching on there, because did you say you played Daughters of Cain before?
No, I don't play Daughters. No, I have played against them with this army a few times.
But I think one of the reasons that they always did really well is obviously their output units, their units that they were sending forward. Not only were they survivable and they could do loads of damage, but it was a lot of bodies inside of it. And if you compare them to Stormcast, I'm not saying Sequitors aren't anywhere near as good, and neither are Evocators really as a unit of of Witch Elves all buffed up. I think the Witch Elves probably are better, but I'd have to actually run the maths. But ultimately, you're getting 3 times as many Witch Elves as you are getting for Evocators. So they're just better at holding those objectives. So I think touching on that is a good point that to constantly reinforce to people that actually bodies on the board is a thing. One of the questions did come up is how do you find finishing games? Not an issue at all. Like you get them done.
No, I'm a quick player. There's only never really gone to time with this army. Funnily enough, I've gone close a few times, but that's usually playing against other slow armies like a Change Host or I don't know, whatever else. But I've always never had an issue. Just because the army, it doesn't, when you attack it, it dies. It doesn't have that 5-up hag save. Like, there's not a lot of dice unless if I'm attacking you.
Yeah,
no issues.
That makes sense. I think it's a good point. Well, Joel, thanks for being on the show. It's been enlightening, or not, because there were none. Have you got any shout-outs you'd like to make? Anyone you want to say big ups to?
I'll just shout out the other Measured Gaming boys. I think they're in the chat, maybe. I don't know. We'll shout them out anyway. I just want to say thanks so much for doing this for the last 30 days, mate. There's a lot of people that they're doing it tough, so this is just a little glimmer of hope for the future, I suppose, in their day. So,
thanks, man. No, to be honest,
we appreciate it.
I've been loving it. Like, had we not had Beaster come up, like maybe this conversation wouldn't have like maybe arisen. And actually, like it's just been really, really fun. Like, I've got some cool people lined up, which I'm looking forward to. I've enjoyed this chat today. And I like the idea of constantly reinforcing those ideas. Like, look, bodies on the board are going to win us games. You know, are you at home painting your elite 5-man unit, and should really you be painting that block of 30 dudes that you fucking don't want to paint, but they're going to win your tournaments? Which and it's a really good shout out to make. So I appreciate you coming on to do it. And I know for me, I'm still looking at like centre course. I'm like, can I? Should I? Like, I don't know.
Do it, mate. Do it.
And also,
I'm sure you of all people took someone up
I'm not sure.
in this army. So.
But also thanks for being one of the snappiest dressers on the show as well. That's been in 30 days. We might have to run a competition, see who the snappiest dresser was in the past 30 days.
I feel sorry for the bloke who's on tomorrow, so he's got something to live up to.
Yes. Well, anyone who's joined us, thanks very much. I'll include all the links to everything that Joel was talking about down below in the show notes. So if you guys want to click on those and leave some comments, and Joel's also on Twitter as well. I'll put, you can see his Twitter handle on there, but if you want to give him a follow, I'll put it in the links below as well, so please do that. And as always, thank you for joining us live. I appreciate that tons. If you've listened to the podcast, stay hydrated, and thanks to everyone on the Honest Wargamer Patreon. Couldn't do it without you, so you guys are great. So I just want to say big shout out to everyone who I can see, like Nicky Williams, Angle, Desert Sketch, Wolf Priest, Warmaster. Don't forget to join us tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm talking to one of the guys from Mantic Games. He's going to be talking to us about, non-Games Workshop stuff, right? He's going to be just talking to us about what they're doing during the lockdown, which is fun. And then don't forget to join us for our 12-hour streak on Saturday. Also some Games Workshop reveals. Joel, are you excited about the Gargants?
Not so much the Gargants, no, but bring on those pointy elves, mate. I'm keen as fuck.
Oh, really?
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because I'm a horny sort of guy, and they've got big horns, you know. But yeah, those mountain cows are really cool to me. I don't know why. I just love them.
I think. Thanks, Paul Haley. Paul in the chat. That's great. Yeah, well, they're goats, right? That's surely you're just like straight up. Maybe they could be conversions for Cygors.
Maybe I can convert Cygors into them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Get some extra bits and pieces in the kit. Sure, let's do it.
Exactly. Well, thanks.
Found a use for my Cygors.
Well, I'm going to say goodbye to all the podcast dudes. See you later, dudes. Have a great day. However, if you're not a podcast dude and you are, Joel, we're going to quickly go raid someone now, if you're comfortable with that. So Twitch chat dudes, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube as well, this means nothing to you. So you should come and join us sometimes over on the Twitch, because it's fun and you can do some fun things. There's someone painting a Bretonnian. Let's go raid that guy straight away. Squid Zillinac. That's fun. We've had a very interesting time raiding people, by the way. We've had raids where we've gone and the person wasn't there. Raid where someone cried. Like, it's just been an amazing set of time. It's been an amazing time. Yeah. So we are going to go raid this guy. So just, make him love the Bretonnians in there. But thanks for joining us, everyone. You guys are great, especially the Twitch crowd. There's always loads of you. You always drop emotes in the chat. We do some great stuff, so fuck you, buddies. Looking forward to both Thursday night show. I'm looking forward to that as well. But Joel, you've been awesome. Thanks for being on the show, man.
No worries, mate.
Thanks, dudes. Right, we're going. See you later, guys.